At the
Hmm.
crossroads of everything you've done,
Yep.
what is Adam Torres' story that other people will be able to learn from?
I started as the worst podcaster in the world and the worst YouTube channel ever. So, okay, somebody's gonna hear that. They're gonna be like, "What?" Let me give you some empirical evidence. When I started my first show, I was so scared I didn't even use my real name because I was so scared that somebody would actually find out that I was doing this. So scared. I did my first show. I did 300 episodes on my iPhone, and I didn't edit them. I didn't know what an intro was. I didn't know what an outro was. I don't even know if you call it a show. Call it Adam recorded some stuff on his phone and uploaded it, and we built an
Mm.
audience from that. So I started as the absolute worst in the world. So if I can do it, and
Welcome, Third Rock listeners, to the Branding Laboratory. I'm your host, Devo, Chief Experience Officer for the Brand Storyteller and the Fusion Creative Brands. And each week, I have the privilege of speaking with extraordinary leaders and entrepreneurs who are reshaping the way industries work. These conversations go way beyond the surface to explore the core philosophies, the lessons, and the challenges that define the brands that we admire today. And one of the greatest rewards of this podcast is the opportunity to share the insights of some of the brightest minds in business, people who are passionate about pushing boundaries and redefining what's possible. And as I always say, the stories we tell are the brands we build. And this show is a testament to the power of that concept. Let's dive in. Today's guest isn't just building a business. He is actually operates in the branding world as well. He is helping people build platforms that help produce podcasts, elevate their leadership, and he's doing this internationally across the globe. And behind this published, polished machine is a man with some relentless discipline, a long game vision. I'm looking forward to diving into that, and a real commitment to helping others be seen. There seems to be a trend lately in our guests, by the way. A lot of them seem to be in this space of visibility and awareness, and maybe it's the message from the universe telling Devo to get more visibility. And that's where you come in as a guest. You can really help me showcase these amazing people that are coming on my show to learn from them, to share their stories with them, and you can do that by liking, by sharing this podcast. And if you have any questions, or if you know someone who wants to be a guest, you can come on the show as well. Anyway, my guest is Adam Torres. He is the co-founder of Mission Matters. It's a media brand that publishes books, podcasts. He's a podcast producer. He is helping leaders elevate their visibility across the globe. And I'm really excited about this conversation because it's not just going to be about content, it's going to be about conversion and how we show up and allow other people to share, if you will, in our zone of genius. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get Adam in here, and we are going to have a fantastic conversation today. Before you had the titles, before the timeline, before the mic, before the headsets, before all the cool things, before Miami and the jet lag and all these things. Who are you and what were you doing?
finance, almost 14 years. I thought I was going to be a financial advisor and managing money long term. I started when I was 16 at Raymond James and Associates in their IRA department as a little guy, just getting my feet wet, and eventually grew my practice up to a little under 200 million before moving full time into media.
Why did you leave?
I had my own RIA, and both businesses were kind of growing at the same time. So the media side was doing good, the investment side was doing good, and my podcast and the media, the books that we were publishing, everything just started to really bubble and take off. And to me, they were two different sides of the brain. Really, one had me in the creative
Mm,
space the whole time. The other one was completely finance oriented and
mm,
managing money. So it was like I can't be. If you're actually in it with your clients and you're managing money and they want you in front of a desk like all
yeah.
day, every day. You can't be traveling doing other things. Like I want to know that I'm taking care of families, when I was in that business. I can't be out there doing podcast interviews. Sorry.
Yeah. So you're an OG in the podcast world. You were doing podcasting before podcasting was cool.
9 years now. Yeah,
Yeah.
9 years, 6,000 over 6,000 episodes in 9 years. This year I'll do over 2,000 episodes. So you could
That's
say I
amazing.
put in work.
You the OG. I've been doing it for 5 years. I'm not as old as you, but I've definitely was on the platform before it all became the cool cliche thing to do. I know Raymond James. not the Raymond James, but I used to live in Tampa, and the stadium
Mm.
was called Raymond James
Oh
Stadium.
yeah, that's where they're huge. Yep.
Yeah, I don't just put that connection together. So, in terms of an interesting story, I worked in the banking world for almost 15 years as well.
Mm.
I was on a different side. I didn't handle money in the sense of I did marketing, branding, project management for almost 15 years for
Mm.
it used to be called Greenpoint Bank out of New York City. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, no, not off the top.
They were purchased by Bank of America, and then they got purchased by another company called Fiserv. And so, anyway,
Mm.
yeah, I did that for 15 years. And I, similar to you, as a passion project, I started doing photography just because I was creative, and
Mm.
I needed some sort of an outlet. And then I walked away from that in 2010 and did photography for. I still own that studio, but I almost did that for 15 years, just kind of
Wow.
base. So yeah. So anyhow, I'm always fascinated by the stories that people have and their trajectory and how they got here. And so you went from you're doing right brain, left brain stuff. You wanted to be more creative. You got into this space. So tell me a little bit about what you actually are doing now.
Yeah. So Mission Matters, the name of the company, missionmatters.com. So we're a media platform. So on the front end, we produce quite a bit of content. So as I mentioned, I'll do over 200 episodes or do 2,000 episodes this year. We've also helped over 250 people launch their own shows. So we have a pretty big production team, and we're cranking out episodes every day. Like it become, 9 years later, quite an ordeal, and it's kind of amazing to see. But yeah, we launched hundreds of shows now. Then we have a PR division on the back end as well, and I spend most of my time traveling and covering events and putting together different series and really creating content.
So sorry, I just want to make sure I have an
Hmm.
understanding of what you do. So there's two things. You're actually producing your own shows,
Yep.
which is around who your business is. Is that what's the show center around?
So our shows, it's think of it as full production. So for example, we have 8 core shows that are in the podcast side of things. So for example, we have a marketing show, a business show, a money show, a tech show, right? So they're all niched out. So and then also we create different series. So for example, right now we just now pitched and a series was greenlit called Africa Forward, and that's where I'll be traveling to Africa with a team, and we're going to be covering some events that are taking place out there for the banking institutions. So far, we have one country signed up, and we're looking at 3 more. And we're also doing some things over in Saudi Arabia. So I'll be going to Riyadh later this year, and we're also creating a series there called Saudi Forward, and that's in support of MBS's 2030 vision, and
Wow.
supporting that transition for Saudi Arabia into diversifying their economy.
And then, so in addition to that, you also help. You have another arm that does production for people's shows like myself, where you
Mhm.
would produce that show.
Yeah, and the way to think of it, and I like to tell people this was from because it may seem like, oh, that sounds like a good idea, and it can be, but you have to design it correctly from the start. So the way our company is designed structurally on the back end, I spend about 30% of my time running the company as CEO. The other 70% of time I spend in front of camera, and all of our different profit centers are run by executives that are, I mean, most of them have run funded startups themselves. They're really bright, brilliant people, and they're responsible for their own P&Ls and their profit centers. So in that case, it makes it. I like to say we're like the smallest speck on the earth of like a Warren Buffett kind of model. Like hire good people that know how to do things and stay out of their way on a very microscopic level compared to Warren Buffett, of course.
Do you do you have an affinity for one of the other two business models that you work with?
Um, on my end, when I think about what makes us unique or what makes us different in the market, just in general, so we have the media side, and then we have obviously the production side of things. I feel like they feed off of each other. Really, like the
Hmm.
more the more episodes. I just started guesting this year, by the way, Devo. So when you say I'm an OG, I just started coming on people's shows literally in January. I was like, you know what? I should probably be going to other people's shows too.
Yeah.
So
Well, when I meant OG, I meant from the actually producing your own show.
yeah, that part I am, but I can't claim I'm like an industry vet. Like there's more people that are a lot more brilliant than myself on this.
Yeah, I've been doing the guesting. I think I'm in my third year of this as well, and I do see the value in it. It does get
Mm,
tiring. I'm not going to be. I'll be honest with you. It's very tiring. I'm having to show up on so many shows all the time. But in terms of the two different businesses, do you have a
yeah.
preference over one? Do you like prefer working in one over the other, or
Do you mean the media side or the production side?
yeah?
For me, I mean, I'm only on the media side. So
Got it.
there's another co-founder. His name is Shirag Cigar. So there's two co-founders here, and he's on the other side of it day to day, like putting together deals, and that's how we were able to grow the way that we have. Is there's got to be both sides. So I'm running the traffic, you could say, and I'm the one out there, on the grind, doing recording the content, and he's the one with that big net catching that money. Come on, man, somebody's got to catch the money.
In terms of I always look back at my childhood and sort of try to understand the trajectory and how I got into the space that I am. And
Mm,
I never knew it was called entrepreneurialism, but as an early age, and I'm talking, 7, 8 years old, I was out helping my brothers initially mow lawns and
mm,
then doing yard work. And then I was a pull boy for people. And then eventually, when they moved on, because they were a lot older than me, I
yeah,
had my own lawn business for through basically all middle school and high school.
yeah.
And then and I worked in McDonald's and I had a newspaper route. Like I had all these jobs. I grew up really poor, so I'm always looking for
Mm-hmm.
ways to have my own money net. And but I never knew I was an entrepreneur. And
Yeah.
then I went straight into college, did the corporate thing for almost 15 years, and I was like, this is just doesn't feel right. There's got to be something more meaningful for me to do. And so
Mm,
I jumped ship and got back into the entrepreneurial world,
yeah.
not mowing lawns this time. But when you look back at your childhood, do you sort of see any experiences or any catalysts that sort of ultimately brought you to where you are today?
So to answer your question though, I think when I was in high school, that was the big one though. Like so I only I went like my second and third year of high school. I went to school maybe like 2 hours a day, and then I
Hmm.
went to the brokerage firm to work. And you got to think about this is like in the late 90s before the tech wreck. So all I heard was, if you think about like how hot the market was then before 2002, certain people were printing money, right? If it had .com at the end of it, the stock was going to go up. So being around kind of almost that euphoria of what was going on in the market was really interesting just to see how the world worked and to have a bigger context and world view of how money worked. Like that was the start. Like that was the start of the real fascination. While everyone else was playing sports and doing other things like that, which I recommend if you're in high school and that's your thing. I didn't really even think about it. I was going to the brokerage firm and we were talking about stocks and we were talking about like what's happening in the market and I'm like 16.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And with the people
I
that are
was an
actually,
athlete. Yeah, I
hmm
was not in that space.
that
Do
would
you
be it.
think that your intellectual curiosity was a big factor for getting you into the entrepreneurial route?
I didn't really know I was even getting in the entrepreneurial route, really. I don't really I actually my last book that I released is called Driven, and I it's like kind of like a tale of two cities. I wrote it with one other co-author. His name's Elliot Callan, and while he's a serial entrepreneur that, constantly sold businesses, bought them, building them, doing that, like he still had many businesses in his lifetime. For me, I called myself an accidental entrepreneur,
Mm.
and I was an accident. I didn't really know that I was even being an entrepreneur because if you think about my transition, I was managing money. I was in the same field for 14 years,
Yeah.
and when I started this business, it was just a little side marketing company to hold the IP for a book. So
Mm.
really, I've only had one business, this one, like a
Mm.
real business. Like I've only had one business ever, and it'd be this one. The other
Mm.
things were kind of like little small hobbies, but so I don't know. I never hold myself out there as a business expert. I'm like, I know how to do the media side and this, that. I've immersed myself in this business now for 9 years, but really only two careers. It's kind of a somewhat linear in that sense.
Interesting. I appreciate that modesty. What are you an expert in? What is your zone of genius?
Warren Buffett reads a financial paper and reads a financial statement. For him, it's like reading the newspaper.
Mm.
Like for me, when I turn on media or when I see what's going on, when I watch an interview, when I see like people interacting, like I just see different layers of what's going on behind it. I see the business model. I see the profit behind it. I see what the distribution is. I see why it's that way. I see what the flaws in maybe the model. I see the changing landscape of media. So I see all of that now after. And by the way, how did I get there? It wasn't by accident. The way I got there was the same way I became an expert in finance. In finance, they have things like your CFP, your Series 7, Series 6. So let's call it, I digested, let's say 7,000 pages of content to get those licenses and to upskill myself just to be able to play the game right. So in media, what I've done is when I knew that this was going to be the next stage of my life was media entertainment, I went back in time and I started studying it from like all the way back to vaudeville days. I mean, and you go forward. So everything from, Bob Hope to Johnny Carson to like you name it. I've read all of their biographies. I've reversed engineered it. I've looked at the models. I've looked at so I've read literally almost the same amount of pages I did for my financial career in the entertainment and media business. So it gives you a different perspective. You change and you can learn it. And then when you understand that it is a business, we're not just creating content here. It changes. The colors change.
So sorry, and maybe I'm just a dud in the head, but you're helping people book publishing get published with podcasting. Like, specifically. Again, I'm still not clear exactly what it is you're solving. So if I were to work with you, what would you be doing for me?
It depends what you came for us for. So if let's say on the broad context, let's say that you're like, all right, I want to build my personal brand. Well, there's all these different things you can do to build a personal brand. You can write a book,
Mm,
you can launch a show. You may need some PR. You may need help with storytelling. You may need to go through our 8-week personal brand accelerator. So that could be one of the cores behind why you would come to us on one side of our business. On another side of the business, maybe you just want to do some advertising. Maybe you don't have it. You're just like, hey, we want to do some advertising. We see your platform. We see what you're doing. What kind of inventory do you have?
mm.
And for an example of that could be, I just did a 200 interview series covering the Milk and Global conference. That's one of the top 3 conferences in the world. So if you wanted to get your brand in front of some of the most important and, well, frankly, wealthy people in the world, I have inventory for that. So it
Got
just
it.
you would come to us and you'd have a discussion. And more than likely, what would happen is you listen to us on a podcast like this, or you went to our website and you start digging around. You're like, hey, what's going on here?
I like it. I like it. I actually
Hmm.
see a synergy for some of my clients once they finish. One of the things that we do, I don't know if you know what I
Hmm.
do outside of I own a photography agency. We do a lot of content as well, but we do branding as well, brand foundation, like helping our clients with their messaging,
Hmm.
so they're able to articulate that to the right audience. But once they get that foundation down, the amplification of it, the marketing of it, the websites
Yeah.
of it, all those pieces. But more importantly, a lot of my clients are personal brands that we're building,
Mm.
so they would
Mm.
need your services to get to a larger audience as well
That's
after
our
that.
tagline, Devo. We
Yeah.
amplify stories, literally.
Yeah, we should have a conversation after this.
That's awesome.
You work with a lot of, that's one of the reasons I podcast, by the way. I was having this
Yeah.
conversation
Yeah.
yesterday. Somebody asked me why I spend so much time doing podcasting. And I was like, duh, because I have this beautiful face and people need to see it. But no,
Come on, of
truthfully,
course.
truthfully, I started the podcast because I realized that I wasn't connecting with a large enough audience around the world.
Mm.
And
Mm.
just having the opportunity to really meet and learn from cool people like yourself who are doing some cool ass things on the planet. And in the process of having this platform, I've been able to just connect with people and just build some really cool
Mm.
projects together. So
That's awesome.
here's another example of that. So, and that goes for guesting and hosting as well. So
Mm.
with your voice and your face and your charisma, you should be able to do some really cool things with this. You work with entrepreneurs primarily, is that correct? Is that sort of the primary people?
It started there and it's expanded. So
Mm.
I mean, entrepreneurs to institutions to actually governments as
Oh
well.
wow.
We're next year. These aren't all greenlit yet, but there's between four. I should be interviewing between 4 and 6 African presidents.
Wow.
So it's growing. Same thing with Saudi. We're getting a lot of traction over there, and then we got some interest in Brazil. So everything, governments, institutions, you name it. We mhm.
When you say you're interviewing these presidents, what's the impetus or what's the point behind the interviews? You're trying to create content to showcase who they are as individuals or showcase a cause, or what is it you're doing these interviews around?
Let me give you one example. So, one of the contracts I have, and this one should be, I'll be going out there in September, and this is a president of a particular of an African bank. They have a change in guard, so to speak. So there's a new bank, there's a new rollout of some plans that they want to communicate to a larger audience. And this is a global bank, so meaning they want to attract outside investors. So they want distribution and they want a face from the United States as well to speak to that audience. So that's where I come in. That's where our platform comes in. Another example could be I just had the head of the SEC in Kenya on the show maybe 2 days ago, and we were talking about the Securities Act of 2025 that they just created, and we were talking about things like what's happening to Ponzi scheme individuals that are like Ponzi schemes, things like that over there. Minimum 10-year jail sentence. This is new law. So all those things, when you think about communication to the world, you need a conduit, you need a platform. So that's what they come to us for on the media side of the business, right?
And sorry, I just want to break that down a little
Hmm.
bit. So I noticed that there's a trend. You're interviewing financially. It sounds like financial sector. Is that sort of
Yeah.
like your niche?
No, that's just literally the last 2 days.
Got it.
This
Okay.
moves fast. I host 8 different shows, and this isn't even counting the
Got it.
different series.
Got
So,
it.
and by the way, the reason I'm talking about Africa so much is just because of the proposals we just submitted and some of the
Got it.
other things. But we work in many different regions. For example, Milken in Singapore is coming up in October. I have the Korea conference coming up in Marina Del Rey. I think that's in September. So when we think about that, I don't want to give everybody the wrong impression. No, worldwide.
You're getting paid to go out there, create content content in the form of a podcast, or is there something else? Broadcast?
It's omni-channel. Depends on the gig. I mean, we could do stream. We could do full. Just stream. It depends on the budget. I mean, we can do full stream. We just finished a series that'll be launched on Prime, on Amazon, and the next by the end of the year. We just finished one. It's in editing right now. So that's it's production, entertainment.
Interesting.
But it did all start from the podcast. That I will
Interesting.
say. That I will say it 100% started from the podcast. And that's for all of the new podcasters that are out there just getting their feet wet. And I'm a baby in the industry. I'm only 9 years in. That's
Yeah.
nothing.
Well, I don't know if that's really a baby in the podcasting industry.
In entertainment, I mean, you think about the greats. Remember, I'm not looking at this. I'm looking at the entire history of entertainment when I'm talking about this. So, from context, the best that ever did it, Johnny Carson's on the air for 30 years.
Mm.
So if you're thinking about to be an expert or the best in any industry, not just in entertainment, you're talking 10, 20, 30 years of real work and climbing. So, not just showing up, right? So if you think about it, that's what I mean. I'm a baby. It's only
Got
nine
it.
years in. That's nothing.
Got it. Well, with these clients that you're working with, I imagine all of them are coming to you for greater visibility, which is sort of the what you're offering, right? Greater visibility around something, being able to
Be,
tell their story.
Well, visibility, distribution, even just, and this is something surprising to you, Devo, and this is for everybody else out there listening. This is a little tip that you're not going to hear from many people, is even just to deliver on what you said you're going to do in terms of video production. You'd be surprised. Some of these conferences and other things that when people go shoot content and they don't get their videos or the content produced and distributed. And I don't mean the like even media companies. I mean literally, you hire somebody, a videographer, to come to your conference and shoot the things. Sometimes you're not getting that for months. So
That is
there's,
so funny. You know how I got into photography?
hmm,
True story. So I've always had a camera in my hand since I was like 12 years old.
yeah,
But I got into photography and I first started doing wedding photography when I first got into the business.
hmm.
And the reason I did is because I hired a photographer for my wedding, and this fool didn't give me my photos for like over a year.
There you go. That's what
And
I'm
bro,
talking
when
about.
I got my photos, I was like, first of all, I could have waited for 5 more years for these because these are awful.
That's what I'm
I
talking
just
about.
paid you $5,000, and this is back in 2003.
Gee, so that's 10 grand now. Yeah.
Maybe
Buying
more,
power. Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Buying power for sure.
And I didn't get my photos for over a year. And I was like, first of all, how the hell are you going to take a year? And he was
Hmm.
impossible to get hold of. I literally had to, this is before the days of internet
Hmm.
and cell phones where they
Yeah, yeah,
were.
yeah. It's
So I'm sure.
2003. So
Remember,
that's
I
the
threw
year after
newspapers as
tech
a
wreck.
kid, so you know how old I was.
Year
So,
after the tech wreck.
bro,
Everything dot coms were still a big thing, having a dot com.
no, this is a true story. I knocked on this homie's window and I was like, dude, it is literally a year later and I still have seen my photos. And he was mad at me that I had tracked him down. And I was like,
Wow.
I don't even understand how you can have this conversation with him right now with a straight face and tell me that I'm in the wrong. You literally took my money and haven't. And he showed up at my wedding late. We had already been walking down the aisle and bro comes rolling up in. And I'm like,
Oh.
So anyhow, fast track. So my
Yeah.
back to my original question that I
So
keep
long
getting at.
story short on that one, there's still that opportunity. Like the difference between someone else and what we're doing and when we're doing a proposal, I'll just give you one quick example. We covered the Newport Beach Investor Conference. We went out there. I did 16 interviews for them in 7 hours, and the deliverables, meaning all the social media posts, all the reels, all the posts across all the different major platforms, the interviews were edited and distributed and emails sent to all of the guests that were interviewed or the VIPs that were interviewed, including the conference organizer within 2 business days.
So that's amazing. First of all,
So that's the difference, and that person is going to be waiting probably for another 3 months to get whatever the other videographer that did panels or something like that or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
The things that nobody watched. You spend 50 grand on the AV, but who's ever sat down on YouTube and watched a panel?
So you're taking the content that you create for these organizations and these individuals, and you're doing the curating of it. You're editing it down, putting it into shorts and trailers and cinema.
Everything. It's full distribution. It's full
That's really cool.
distribution.
I
So
understand
now,
what you're doing.
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So back to my original question that I've been trying to get out for a while, and I keep chasing squirrels. When you're working with these organizations who are looking for greater visibility,
Yeah.
distribution, et cetera, do they don't really know they may or may not know what they're getting out of it, and they may or may not know what they actually want. Are you
Hmm.
seeing some common mistakes that people are making when they're trying to build a brand around this content that you're creating?
Well, for the organizations, if we're talking on that side, they know because we have enough case studies, so they become really educated buyers real quick. So they understand what they're doing because it's not cheap, like what
Hmm.
we're doing in the complexity. And I mean, it's a spend, right? To get me to go out there do things like that, it's not cheap. So they know, and they're educated buyers ahead of time,
Got
and
it.
they know, and what they're doing is they're leveraging, and we don't do it for everybody, but they're leveraging our brand, they're leveraging the content, and some of them even have the real savvy ones are adding it to their are adding me essentially to their sponsorship packages, and they're raising their prices. Because now, if you think about if you've ever sponsored a conference or something, you go there, you sponsor, your logos there, you have some branding, great, you leave, okay, it's done, right?
Mhm.
Your sponsorship dollars, maybe you got something out of it, maybe you didn't. When now, what if for the smart savvy organizers that add me to their bill, now they're getting more, they get all that social media content, they get the interviews, so now they have content and distribution that'll be up there really forever until.
So when you're showing up at these events and you're creating content for these individuals, these
Yeah,
presidents,
yeah,
these et cetera,
yeah.
are
Hmm.
you're a personality in of itself? Are you,
Oh yeah,
or are you
yeah.
just recording their responses and asking them the questions?
No,
You're
no,
you're
no. They're
engaging with them
paying.
and
They're paying
drawing.
for me. I've done
I
over six
understand.
thousand
Got it.
interviews.
That's
They're
what I was
paying
trying
for
to
our
get at.
distribution. So and by the way, if anybody wants to see this, just ask Adam Torres on Instagram. You'll see a ton of content, and you'll see the real time. And then some organizers they'll have me do the interviews on stage. Some will build me a stage off out to the side because I don't fit into their main programming. All of the above. It's really the aim and the goal is to drive ticket sales. It's to drive sponsorship sales, and it's to drive engagement as well before, during, and after the event.
I
So
understand.
that's the distribution side of it. So we're kind of like a bolt-on media company for
I
the right
understand.
partners, by the way.
You're a maestro, an MC, and a production company all at once.
We get it done, baby.
I love that. I'm assuming you've interviewed thousands of people. If you've been doing this,
Over 6,000 people, and I'll interview over 2,000 people this year, for context. And last year there were over 30,000 people that applied to come on the show.
well, I'm honored, that you would come on my little podcast. So thank you, first of all.
Come
Um,
on, man. The
in
Podcaster Nation, we do it.
in terms of the people you've interviewed, thousands of people, you've written
Hmm.
books, you've put together countless stories of other people. What's when you sort of encapsulate all of that at the end of the day, what do you think what is your story about you that other people could learn from you? What is that sort of like at the
Hmm.
crossroads of everything you've done?
Yep.
What is Adam Torres' story that other people will be able to learn from?
I'm gonna make a statement, Devo, and it's not a false, humble statement. And so before you react, let me give you some supporting evidence, okay? I started as the worst podcaster in the world and the worst YouTube channel ever. So, okay, somebody's gonna hear that. They're gonna be like, what? Let me give you some empirical evidence. When I started my first show, I was so scared I didn't even use my real name. because I was so scared that somebody would actually find out that I was doing this. So scared. I did my first show. I did 300 episodes on my iPhone, and I didn't edit them. I didn't know what an intro was. I didn't know what an outro was. I don't even know if you call it a show. Call it Adam recorded some stuff on his phone and uploaded it, and we built an
Mhm.
audience from that. I was so terrified of video that if you turn on a video or a camera, if you can get on a Zoom call right now, you're a light years ahead of me. I was so scared as soon as turn on a camera, I would forget my name. I did over 1,500 episodes before I would record a single episode on camera.
Wow.
I had such stage fright to be in front of a stage, especially to like ask people questions or anything like that. I didn't do an in-person interview with the crowd until we had like over 3,000 episodes in. So I started as the absolute worst in the world. So if I can do it, and the reason why, and by the way, I never told you why I'm guesting now, Devo. The reason why I'm guesting is because I want to share that particular story because I know there's some other people out there right now that maybe they're not in the game and maybe they're scared and maybe they're like judging every single thing. Maybe they don't have the right mic. I didn't have a mic. I was literally doing it on my iPhone. Maybe you didn't, maybe if you can, maybe they can turn on a Zoom and do video, but you don't even have to do video. But the
Yeah.
point is, the reason why I do this and why I come on shows now is because I want everybody else to start their own shows. I want it doesn't have to be through us. I mean, go do your own thing, whatever. This is not promo for our production agency. It's actually the exact opposite. I just want more people out there telling their stories because it is a luxury to be able to do that. We didn't always have that choice, and I mean in the world, period. At one point, there was it was only the people, a very certain amount of people that owned the media companies or that owned the newspaper presses, speaking of the newspapers or whatever else, though they got to create our narrative and our story. And that's the way the world was like for, thousands of years. Go back far enough. Whoever had the tablet and the chisel, like that's who was writing the story. It doesn't matter. Whoever had the stick around the campfire that could draw, that was who was writing the story. But
Who was the
now,
fire starter?
oh, there you go. Who's the fire
Let's take that
starter?
even one step. I always tell that story. It's sort of like if you think about storytelling and of it, the
Mm,
nature of storytelling began around a campfire, I would
yep.
imagine. That's what brought
Hmm.
people and cultures and tribes together, like sitting down and cooking their whatever it is
Yeah.
they had just hunted with their hands. Anyhow. So,
Yeah.
what do you know now that you wish someone had told you a few years back before you got into the space you are now?
All these things that I've done, I did begrudgingly. I didn't want to write my first book. My mentor, Christopher Kai's like, you got to write a book. I'm like, broke people write books. I literally had a chip on my shoulder because I was in finance. So I didn't know anything about telling stories. I didn't know anything about personal brand. I didn't know anything. So again, the worst. If I would have known in the past, and this is the way I like to explain it to people, that the personal brand is the one thing that you're gonna die with. Literally, your personal brand is the one thing that you're gonna die with. You're either or lack of personal brand, whatever it is, it's your biggest value. So when people talk about your network is your net worth, you're this, you're that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take it one step further. You build a big company right now, you sell it. You don't have that company anymore. You don't have any of that anymore. If you didn't build a personal brand while you were doing that, guess what? And this isn't a bad thing. I'm feeling sorry for you. You maybe just have a bucket of money. But if you had built a personal brand while you were doing that, do you know how much easier it is to attract investors for your next company or whatever you're looking for your
Yeah.
next company or even just experiences? Let's take the money side out of things and let's just talk about the experiences that you attract into your life. People, of a certain level and of a certain brand attract other individuals that are of that same caliber, period. Like the day and age of like being just kind of like under the radar, it doesn't mean you have to be an influencer or this or that. Personal brands need to be authentic. They need to match who you are. You don't want to be somebody else. So when I say building a personal brand, you don't want to do that, but you need to create an authentic brand that matches who you are at this point in time right now, and then project and take people on a journey of where you want to be in the future. It's so simple. If somebody would have taught me that in the past, man, I can't even tell you where I'd be right now.
Dude, it's a really you are the brand, I tell that to people all the time. Like you literally are the brand, especially if you're a small business owner or you're an entrepreneur, even if you're a
Hmm.
solopreneur, even if you own a small business. If you really stop and think about who you are and how you show up in the world and what you believe and the values and your philosophies and how you view humanity and how you view customer service and
Hmm.
or don't, like all of that is going to be imbued into your business. And if you don't
Hmm.
understand how you show up, then you're not going to be able to take sort of ownership of that. And so I
Yeah.
actually got into a debate with somebody the other day on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn in that regard because people can just sort of like hide behind the screen and talk and say whatever they want. I'm like,
Yeah.
but this woman has a really large following on LinkedIn, and she posted something about how building a personal brand was a waste of time. And
Mm.
I was like, you're literally you are a personal brand right now. You've literally built a personal brand this
Yeah.
entire time. How can you say it's a waste of time? The reason you have success at this point, forget about like the merits of
Hmm.
building a personal brand and all the things you just said. You literally are doing exactly what you're saying is a
Yeah.
waste of time, and that is why you have success. So, like by the very nature of your
Yeah.
conflict, like it makes no sense. So anyway,
And
yeah,
so when I see that though, you asked me earlier what has changed in my life. So when I see things like that, regardless of who the person is, if they said that, then I understand the manipulation in that. And
because
I so
she's
when I
just
say I see the world differently, I do. And so
yeah.
I so that's like reading the newspaper. It's like, oh, that person's willing to do that for attention. Okay.
Well, that's literally what I said to her in my
Yeah.
comment. I said, "Did
Yeah.
you just write this
Yeah.
provocative post just to get a
Yeah.
reaction so that you can get your likes bigger?
Yeah.
Because you clearly don't believe this, if or you wouldn't be on LinkedIn doing the things that you believe in." And so we got into this whole back and forth. And I was like,
Yeah.
"How about you come on my podcast? Let's have a conversation about why personal brand is a waste of time." I would love to have that conversation with you, just because I want to learn how you could have that
Yeah.
position on something. I don't want to be like provocative and like get into an argument with you. I just sort of want to better
I want you
understand.
to because I'm a fan. I want to hear it, Devo. Get him,
So,
get him.
anyway, crazy to me. If everything you've done today were to disappear tomorrow, what would you still want to be known for?
I'm just a conduit.
You're a
Like
conduit.
that's
I
it.
love that.
I'm a conduit. I don't like I'd help more people tell their
I
stories.
love
I would
that.
just keep doing like my style of podcasting even. I'm more of a broadcaster. I'm
Mm.
trying to bring the story out of the other person. I'm not talking that much. I add my part. I do, let's just say my part of the deal, of course. I'm not passive in any way, but I'm just a conduit. I'm a conduit helping other people to get their stories to others to help others. Really.
Yeah.
That's it. Just spreading love. That's it.
But you still sprinkle a bit of your sass into it.
I'm fun. I hope
Yeah,
so. Like it's got to be entertaining. If I'm not having fun, they're not having fun. You can't
I
like, yeah,
agree.
but ultimately though, I'm not the center of that like
Yeah.
of that interview. If I am, then it takes a different complexion. That's not what I want out of my show. But that's just me. And I'm not against shows that are like that, by the way. It's okay.
Mhm.
But my aim is to whether somebody's a seasoned media executive or whether they're a seasoned professional, done thousands of interviews, they've been in entertainment or this or that. My goal and my aim is to pull something out of them, whether it's a feeling, a story, something, just a little bit more than maybe they've done in the past. So I'm a conduit.
How do you think you've grown and evolved as an individual, as a business owner, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur? When you look back at sort of some of the beliefs you held, maybe when you were in the finance industry with Raymond James, and now look at who
Oh,
you
I
are
didn't know
today.
any of this stuff. I didn't know any of it. Like, so I literally was starting from ground zero. Nothing. I didn't know anything about entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything about media. I didn't know anything about branding, nothing about, I told you my first show, I didn't even use my real name. Who
What
does
was the name
that?
you used?
It was actually a funny nickname that I was given. So I'm definitely I like to be part of communities when I'm in there. So when I moved to Century City, California, I was on the board for the Chamber of Commerce. I was on the art council that picked up, public art for Century City. And so I'm like in it. When I go to a city, I want to be part of the community. I really enjoy that part of just life, meeting and connecting. So it was to the point that I'm such a promoter that people called me Mr. Century City. They'd be like, "Oh, there goes Mr. Century City," and it started as a joke, but then it stuck. And then that's what people called me. So I thought it'd be funny to say Mr. Century City. That was my original moniker. Like I didn't use my name. Like, hey, this is Mr. Century City coming from whatever, whatever. And I'll tell you the really quick thing. And this is for people that are out there, like be bold, take chances. Here goes the most ridiculous thing of it all. I was offered by a news outlet that wanted to penetrate that Century City market a job where they were going to send me a news crew, everything else, so I could start reporting from there. And I'm the world's worst host, but just because I called myself Mr. Century City, they saw my content somewhere and they're like, "Oh, you know what? We understand you're a financial advisor. We understand you have everything going, but I want you to, but do one story a week for us, whatever." And they were good. We'll send you the crew. We'll do everything else. Don't worry about it. One story a week. It's nothing to take an hour.
That's funny.
Isn't that hilarious? Just from calling yourself something random and then not, and it catches on. So, but that's just be bold. Try.
Yeah. I think that is a good recipe and a good message for a lot of people. I think a lot of people have ideas and they just don't know where to start. And because they don't know where to start and they're sort of being
Yeah.
surrounded by their own fears, they're just like, I'm just never going to go into that space. I had that
Hmm.
conversation with somebody at a networking session. He's thinking about jumping into. I went to this event where I was doing a keynote for him, and
Yeah.
he came up and talked to me afterward, and wanted to know how I got started and all this sort of stuff. And he's like, "Well, I had this really good idea, but I didn't really know where to begin." And I'm just like, and when I started having this conversation with him, he was just like, "Yeah, I have a family, I've got two kids, I've got a car, I've got a mortgage, and there's no way my wife would support me if I were just to stop that." And I was like, "Well, why can't you just start dabbling in some of it right now?"
Yeah.
Why can't you
Yeah.
start playing with a few things? Just sort of, you might even not even like doing this. It's like this might be like a chore for you, but you're never
Yeah.
going to know if you don't start by starting, right? So,
That's
all right,
true.
last few questions before you jump, and thank you again for being here, Adam. I really appreciate it. You said you're a conduit. Is that what really makes you feel the most useful? Is that your gift to the planet?
I think it is. I don't really see the blessings that I've been given, the things that like I can just tell. Like whenever I've lived a life more so going after just money. And when I was in finance, that was the main impetus of that type of business, at least the way I approached it, right? And then this just ends up being for me more fulfilling and more rewarding, just on a personal level, and then obviously the good thing about media is it does compound at different rates, of course, but I just project forward, 10 years, 20 years at the clip that I'm going. I'll have one of the largest, if not the largest public catalog of interviews in the history of entertainment in the next 10, 20 years. So, because everybody else that have done this business before there, and notice I said public catalog, everybody that's done this before didn't have this type of distribution that many of us take for granted now.
Yeah.
Like you weren't able to do this in the past. So, for example, Johnny Carson's catalog is in a vault somewhere. Like
Yeah.
it's not, you can't just Google any interview he's ever done. It's not going to happen. So it's just not public information. But in this type of distribution, it compounds. So I think in that compounding, this in my imagination, what happens is it's not just the compounding of money or making more money. It's compounding the reach of the stories and the individuals that have spent time and effort coming and trusting, coming on our platform to share.
Yeah. I agree with you. And never before have we, nobodies, well, you're not a nobody, had an opportunity to build something
Yep.
and share it with what are we, 7.5, 8 billion people on the planet? Every
Yeah.
single one of them has a phone.
Yeah.
Basically, from the day you're born, you have an opportunity to share your slice of the world, your zone of
Hmm.
genius, your ideas.
Insane.
Like,
Insane.
dude, people always decrying social media, and I understand the pernicious aspects of social media.
Sure.
Like it can really fuck you up. But if you can be conscious about it and
Mm,
self-aware about how you show up, and you have a message and you have an
mm.
opportunity to share that message with so many people, and even if you just change one life, I
Yeah.
personally believe you have a moral obligation to do that.
Uh,
And never before in the history of entrepreneurialism or business or anything else have we had so many resources basically free of charge for
mm.
us to share that message. So my message to you, if you're listening, if you're an entrepreneur, and the same message I said to this dude, if you have something that is worth sharing with someone else that could change their life, make them richer, make them happier, make them more inspired, bring them joy, you have a fucking obligation to share that. And you should
Mm.
start doing that some way, shape, or form. Even if it's after your 9 to 5 and you go down to your basement where your wife doesn't know you're doing this, start broadcasting your message, man. Start putting out content around it so that you could change someone's trajectory. And so that's sort of why I got into this space and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But anyway, dude, I'm
Love
honored
it.
that you gave me your time today. I appreciate it. Let's stay connected. People can find you at missionmatters.com. Is that the best
Um,
place?
Ask Adam Torres on Instagram. Super simple. Just again, Instagram, Ask Adam Torres. If you're out there and you got a show concept, a book concept, a gig, a media, a conference coming up, shoot me a DM. And love to keep the conversation going. Let me know what you're working on.
You run your own podcast. How does somebody, if they want to be a guest on your show, what's the ideal person that you're looking for your own show?
Just fill out the application, really. Ask Adam Torres. I host 9 different shows. So,
I want to be a guest on your show, man.
Shoot me a message, man. Come on.
Let's do it. Let's continue this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Man, thank you. Really appreciate it. Enjoy Miami and safe travels back to, I'm from California too, so safe travels back to the motherland.
Awesome. Thank you, Diva.
Thanks for tuning in to the Branding Laboratory. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Connect with us on social media for more branding tips and insights. And remember, your story matters. Until next time, keep building and sharing your unique brand story. I'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Branding Laboratory. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Connect with us on social media for more branding tips and insights. And remember, your story matters. Until next time, keep building and sharing your unique brand story. I'll see you soon.